And we're live. We're going to go through, there's the rundown for today, Olga's diagnostic method and the differences sort of between her method and those of other socionists. And we'll be going through her questionnaire and also the subtype of Laura, and sort of there will be sort of a case example, a case study of how Olga's diagnostic method comes out and the nuances that you get in the diagnosis. So because the method is very important to type diagnosis, because it might be a method which is flexible enough that allows somebody to follow up on somebody's answer rather than having a more rigid system. So over to Olga. Or Laura.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, I'm glad to be here. Olga, thanks for coming. Ben, thanks for setting up this interview.
That's okay. Oh, one thing for the audience. You could give an overview, Laura, of how you tend to get typed in different systems.
Sure. So with Socionics, I've been typed as several different types. World Socionic Society, which is run by Jack Oliver Aaron, he types me as a logical, intuitive introvert, as does Ben here, and Ibrahim from Whole Socionics.
And Alina.
What? You look surprised.
And Alina typed you as LII as well.
Oh, Alina, yeah. My friend Alina did. Yeah, that good point. And then Encyclopedia Socionica, they got a website, and they typed me as EII. Ethan Skies, who runs a YouTube channel on Socionics, he typed me as SLI, sensory logical introvert. Victor Gulenko typed me as EIE with a normalizing subtype. He uses the Model G method, which is a bit different. We're not going to get into the details there, but there are other videos that Ben has done that explain the Model G, if you want to learn more about that. I'll
just say that I separate Model G from the rest of humanitarian socionics in that his diagnostic methods I see as you can still use Model G, but without using his diagnostic methods. I'll just say that.
Okay. And then Timur Protsky, he's a Russian socionicist. He types me as LIE, logical, intuitive, extrovert. His method tends to focus a lot on semantics, so it may not necessarily match up with Model A or Model G. And I don't know this person's name, but he's a Russian socionicist. He mainly types on visual identification. He typed me as an IEE. So,
wow.
So yeah, I've gotten a diversity of socionics types, but I think the overall trend, I think the most common type that's popping up is logical, intuitive, introvert. So we'll see if I get logical and intuitive introvert here as well.
Yeah, because Alina knows you quite well, and I can say her surname because it's on YouTube, Alina Ames. And she runs a website with Victor, so she's quite knowledgeable in socionics, and like you've met in real life. And so I think her typing is coming from somebody who knows you a bit better than the others. And I think originally, did something happen with you with Jack where you went back and he typed you differently?
Yeah, well, no, he never typed me differently.
Right. Okay.
I got typed by Jack a long time ago, way back in December 2014, and I officially got typed as logical, intuitive, introvert. But later on, in the socionics community, there were quite a few people that disagreed with that type, and in particular, a lot of people thought I was an EII, ethical, intuitive, introvert. Some suggested SLI. A couple even thought IE, there was just a couple other types that were sort of thrown in there for me. SEI, a couple thought SEI. I think one person even said ESI. And and I was starting to have doubts too, because like in other, and I know it's not, I know Myers-Briggs is not the same as Socionics, but in like Myers-Briggs communities, and you know, being analysis through Union cognitive functions, not Socionics, but most of the time I was not getting INTP, but I was getting ISTJ, which I related to. And they thought, well, how can you be an ISTJ and MBTI and a LII and Socionics? You know, they're two different systems. But I started to just have doubts about Socionics, because in some ways I felt different than other LIIs in Socionics.
Right.
Like I could see more focus on ethics, morals, relationships, just kind of being more emotionally sensitive. I didn't, you know, I didn't think I was necessarily, you know, the LII stereotype is kind of like this hyper intellectual person. They're kind of off on their own cloud. They're kind of not fully in touch with reality, and I feel like I'm a bit more down to earth than that. I'm not so much coming up with these totally outside of the box solutions, although I value them if they work. I don't know, I just feel like I'm more practical and pragmatic, maybe not as much creative or innovative, even though I value that. So it's like I just see some differences between some of these other LIIs. Right. And myself. So then I talked again with Jack a few weeks ago, and I said, I'm really doubting this type. And he kind of went over some things, and he reconfirmed LII. You know, we especially talked about LII versus EII. And one thing that he said was that I depend a lot on someone's emotional state to kind of assess the relationship with somebody. I'm very dependent on somebody's external expression of emotions. Like I'm very sensitive to their facial expression, their voice tone. And like if somebody, if it seems negative to me, I kind of automatically think this is not, our relationship is not very good. And sometimes I'm not always looking for that deeper intention. I kind of assume that the emotions say everything. And that's another thing, is I'm not so good at reading subtext. Sometimes it's got to be explicit to me, or I might get fooled. Like if they're smiling, I think that they like me. If they're mad at me, our relationship is bad. They probably think poorly of me. And it's really a lot more complex than that, because somebody can smile at you just because, well, maybe they're happy about something else, or they're just trying to be polite, or somebody's angry and it's not even directed at you. It's about something totally else, or they really like you and respect you, even though they're still upset at something you did. And you said that like FE valuers, especially when it's in the suggestive position, they tend to, you know, kind of really focus on that external emotional state.
So Laura, I've got a couple of digressions here, but
okay.
They're important. Can you differentiate easily between real smells and fake smells?
Real smells and fake smells?
Smiles.
Oh, I thought you said smells. Yes and no. I mean, like if it's more subtle, I might miss it. But sometimes it's blatantly obvious that somebody's faking it.
Right. Okay.
And I can tell.
Where do you tell on somebody's face that it's a fake smile?
Well, in the eyes, I think.
Right. Okay.
Like so the eyes don't match. Like the eyes lack a sparkle to it.
Yes. So this is a thing that somebody investigated over 100 years ago. I think it was over 100 years. It's called the Duchenne smile. There's certain eye muscles around the eyes where when somebody only if they put themselves in a happy state do they contract, and you get the little creases around the eyes. Now you can do it if you put yourself in a happy state. You can fake a real smile just by altering your state and just think of something really happy and channel it, and then you show. But anyway, Now, this might sound like a digression, but I think it's hugely important. If you just talk for a few moments about Enneagram and certain aspects of it, and the reason why I bring this up is that if you say for a few minutes, and this will help Olga, if you say for a few minutes about Enneagram Type 6 and what that means for you and how that makes your focus of attention is different from the typical, say, LII Enneagram Type 5, which is all about knowledge and competence. And then also a little bit about your instinct with self-preservation, because I think that's huge, functions.
Well, I do have a 5 wing, so I still focus a lot on the 5 stuff, knowledge and competence. And for a while, I mistyped myself as a 5 wing 6. You know, I thought it was a core 5. And then after talking with Ben and other people and just doing more self-analysis on my own, I realized that my core is a type 6. So I'm a 6 with a 5 wing instead of a 5 with a 6 wing. Well, I think 6 focuses a lot on security and loyalty. And so for me, well, like in a job, for example, like for me, the most important thing is the security that a job is going to bring. And that's more important to me than just doing something I love. Because if I do something I love and I constantly have to worry about, is this job going to last? Am I going to have to look for another one? I'm not going to be able to enjoy the job I have. I feel like I got to have that security in place first. And, you know, and I tend to focus a lot on rules and stuff, not necessarily because I always agree with the rules, but it's to avoid being in trouble. You know, if I don't follow these rules, I might be in trouble. And you know, I focus a lot on loyalty and reliability. And I think LIIs are pretty reliable. I mean, they are rational types, but I don't know. I guess I seem to focus on that even more, I guess. And with the self-preservation subtype, I'm kind of, you know, I think it gives me more of a practical bent than some LIIs have. Like some LIIs, like they forget to take care of their bodily needs or something. And I think I'm more aware of how I'm feeling in my body, and wanting to be physically comfortable and able to provide that for myself, and not always having to rely on other people to do that. And you know, like I'm good at, you know, monitoring my own resources, making sure I have enough resources, and having enough money and stuff. That's easy for me to do. And
okay. What I wanted to say, as regards, let's go. I understood about what you said, Enneagram 6, although I'm not using Enneagram in any shape or form in typing someone and thinking about subtype. But I will comment on that. Let's go first to the questionnaire which you actually used, you know, because my method has got a few tools. And we didn't go together through the non-verbal diagnostics, your preferences and art and music. But I think long time ago, maybe around when you were first typed by Jack, you probably had an interest to find out your type. You came to me, and I remember we looked at your pictures, and I always remembered your type as Robespierre, yeah, which called Russian, LII. So kind of didn't have doubts after that. Whenever maybe I saw what you type saying or whatever, it was in my mind LII. And today, I mean, this time we just used a part of the whole method. We used the questionnaire, we used tests, and we used type and subtype analyzer. Yeah. So I want to ask you a question. How did you find questionnaire? The process of it, was it difficult, not difficult? Did you like it or not? Was it anything uncomfortable? Was it more revealing for you in understanding your type? How helpful was my questionnaire?
Okay. First of all, I'm gonna in a moment I'm gonna do a screen share so I can pull up the questionnaire so other people can find it. So-
Yeah, I'll just fill up a bit. Yeah. There we go, and then a little box will appear for me, and then I'll put it on screen. So yeah, so
okay.
Okay.
So can you see that?
Not yet. Not. A little box has not appeared for me to add to the screen yet. No.
Well, I don't know.
Is there a way for you to send it to me, Laura, and then I could put it on screen? Or
do you want to find the questionnaire?
We can try with you first.
I don't know if it's really necessary.
Yeah, because I pressed share. I pressed share screen, so you're not seeing where it says questionnaire. You're not seeing that.
No, wait a minute, Laura. You know when you press share screen, it then gives you a whole panoply of options of things to share within that. There's like another step.
Okay, well, it says your entire screen, application window, Chrome tab. Oh, Chrome tab. There I go. I got it. Okay, and then I choose the tab.
Whatever you think is right. Or you can share a particular window.
Okay, I'll share my tab.
Yeah, we have liftoff. Right.
Okay, so this is the questionnaire. Olga, this is the questionnaire you're talking about, correct? Yes. Okay. Yes. So the site is socionics4u.com at the top here with the number 4, and then you click on questionnaire. So, I mean, this questionnaire was, relatively easy to answer. It was kind of long. I ended up, to get everything answered, I ended up splitting it up into 4 different videos, and it was close to it was like 2.5 to 3 hours combined, because it goes, first of all, there's a general information section where you introduce yourself about these things here. So that was my first video, was just on that part. And then part 1 is like the 4 functions. So logic is the first one, ethics, intuition, and sensory. And then under those 4, there's like all these different aspects of it. So like for logics, for example, in disputes and conflicts with people, when I'm reading this off, with each statement, I kind of analyze that and try to give examples. And there's several statements in this paragraph. So, and I wanted to give a thorough analysis, because the more data that there is, the more likely that the analysis is to be accurate. So it took quite a bit of time to assess all these. So basically what you're doing is at the end, you're giving yourself a rating. Are you good at this? Are you not good at it? Or you're not sure? So I did this for logic, and then I did this sort of thing for ethics, for intuition, and sensory. So that was my second video. And then after that, it breaks it even farther into 8 functions, where it looks at the introverted and extroverted attitudes of thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuition. And again, going through the paragraphs with all these statements. And then there was 2 more videos that I did on all 8 of the functions. So, I mean, it's a good question. It's a good questionnaire because it does go in depth, but it is quite time consuming if you're going to really answer it thoroughly and give examples. Oh, and then at the very end, you then prioritize the 8 functions from strongest to weakest. Make this text a little bigger here so you can see. So like you classify which functions are your strong functions, which functions are in doubt, whether they're strong or weak, which ones do you consider weak, and then and then from that, hopefully Olga is able to analyze your most likely type.
Actually, I would like to mention that that questionnaire is linked to type and subtype analyzer, so that people, that the program can actually count, yeah, what is most likely type and subtype. So the person can either fill on a paper and show, if he is showing to expert on to the group. But also the person can look at the type and subtype analyzer. And you did actually this type and subtype analyzer, yeah? And we had also a graph saying that your type is ILI. That's how this program of type analyzes, so that your type is ILI and
Right.
subtype is
Okay, I can, yeah, hold on. I can share another screen here. So, right. So if you go to this button here, type and subtype analyzer. So what you do is you rate these functions on a scale of 1 to 3. So a 1 is a function that you consider to be weak. A 2 would be, neutral, or you're not sure, you're in doubt. And then number 3 would be a function you consider strong. So when I did this, first at the top, you're just looking at the letters themselves, not broken down into the function. So how good are you at logic overall? How good are you at ethics? How good are you at sensing? How good are you at intuition? For the top part here, you rank them from strongest to weakest. So I put that logic, or T, was my strongest. Feeling was my second, or ethics. Intuition was third, and sensing was fourth. And then here is where you rate them on each individual cognitive function on a scale of 1 to 3. So 3 being strong, 1 being weak. So I gave a 3 for TI, I gave a 3 for TE, and I gave a 3 for NI. So those were my strongest functions. And then my weakest functions were FE and SE. I gave those a 1. And then the remaining ones, FI, SI, and NE, I gave a 2. So then I'm going to do count, and that's going to submit my result. So yeah, so it did give me ILI, and I think it's because I considered myself to have strong TE, which is the second function of ILI. So I'm guessing maybe that's where that's coming from. Maybe. But
yeah. How it counts? If you go a little bit up so that we can see the actual numbers,
sure,
values for each, then we can, if we can see just that. Okay, I'll tell you how the program must count it, and how the practitioner, analyzes your values. We see that you put T, highest value, and NI, highest value. So that probably is, I usually point to the people, okay, it's kind of not quite working, because in model A we have got all static function or all dynamic function. So the program will try to figure out, is it more static function, more introverted function, this sort of thing, or more irrational functions. It could be that, it's strange, but it could be that irrationality somehow have won the case here. So that's the only thing which I can think about, irrationality and introversion, if we count those values. That could be the case. At the moment, yes, it should be LII, but they said to you the type is actually Balzac.
Yeah.
Maybe dynamic functions in here. Yes, sorry, you put TE also number 3, no?
Yeah, and I wasn't sure about TE because I thought, well, I think TI and NI are a bit stronger than TE, but then TE is stronger than all of the remaining functions. So I wanted to do like 2.5, and that wasn't an option. It had to be 1, a 2, or a 3. So I just put a 3 on there, So
Yeah, that could be where the confusion comes from. You put two introverted rational two dynamic function highest value. It is Ni and Ti, and that's how the choice went, because if you put Ti and Ne, slightly bigger value to Ne, then it could be LII. So it is a bit more dynamic functions got higher rates. That's why. So that's what I would point about if I would analyze the result. I would say, look, you are static type or you are dynamic type. Yeah, introversion, fine. You got introverted profile, introverted subtype, but a bit wrong subtype. So rationality, and so on.
I mean, is that a common thing you find with people? Like, it'll kind of swap those, like ILI and LII will get swapped, or maybe like if somebody was an EII, for example, they might test as an IEI. Do you commonly see that?
So the approach to type diagnostic is focusing on two major points. It is your TPE profile, your TPE, leading TPE, it is a type group, where do you belong, yeah, and TPE profile, the strongest and the compensating subtype TPE, and another thing is functional profile, yeah. And what was good about your test results, that although you produced results along all TPEs, they were distributed more or less evenly, but I don't think we have seen LII. Your results were associative test IEI, type Yesenin. On non-verbal test you had, we can have a look graphs later, LIE, Jack London, and Don Quixote, ILE, and this type analyzer gave us also ILI, Balzac. So, but what was good, that your functional profile was confirmed, so you belonged strongly to the group of NT club, yeah. So that was good.
What did you say? NT club?
Yes, NT scientist
NT club. Okay.
NT club scientist. So when I analyze the results, I'm looking, okay, this person is most likely is NT club, because all the tests confirm it, yeah. But what is changing the TPE group type of energy, which I call. And I try to make a sense what dominates, and I have got different tools for it, yeah. So I don't know if you should look on other graphs of yours of nonverbal test.
Yeah, because I did, because you had several on your site, and I got inconsistent results between them.
Yes.
And many times it was like I didn't know. Well, like some of them had like 8 options to choose from, and it was like, okay, how do I pick just one? And it's like, because and so it was like hard to decide for some of those questions, or
yeah, maybe it's a good idea. Well, what else tests tell you? It shows that functional profile, logic is strong, and intuition is strong. Logic is 6 value, and intuition is 5 value.
Yeah,
which is good for your type LII.
Oh, then where it says psychodynamic profile, it says I have a discrepancy. introvert plus
person.
3. So can you kind of explain more about what that means?
So this psychodynamic type profile comes of a combination of different TPs in your psyche. But of course, it is all based on your judgment, your evaluation. Yeah, it's not a test. It is you put this values how you see yourself. So, and above psychodynamic profile, you have got also it's written TP profile. We have got how many values you got on each of type of energy. So ego 4, super ego 5, id 3, and super id 5. So pretty much between the two TPs, it's equal super ego and super id, and that's why you have this introverted profile. They are the strongest in values compared to ego and id is here came out as the least present. And then it is the same thing, but just showing on the level of dichotomies. Yeah, so you have got dynamics, if I can see right, just very slightly higher. Yeah, one value higher. Introversion is quite higher than extroversion, and then rationality is just a bit higher. So the values come very close. Why it is a discrepancy? Because you scored higher on introversion and on rationality, and you're supposed to be static type, but you scored a bit more on dynamic. That's why we have discrepancy.
And
It
I
doesn't fit to
remember,
one scale.
and just a really quick aside here, but when I was typed by Victor Galenko, he thought I was more. It was interesting because he thought I was more dynamic than static. Now he typed me as an ethical, intuitive extrovert, but he was considering ethical, intuitive introvert, which is a static type, but he thought it was more dynamic than static, like especially like in my emotional state. So
Yes.
is it possible that I have a subtype in socionics that tends to be more dynamic than static, even though I'm a static type?
Of course, it is possible for your leading TP. It is super ego type. Yeah, there are all other three are possible TPs, and if subtype TP is either it will be dynamic, yeah, or static with TP, or introverted with TP super id. But if you look at how you valued yourself, then introverted profile and subtype super id came a little bit higher.
Okay.
And then we can, and here we can mention this Enneagram 6, which you said, that it is about security, keep yourself to yourself, and this and that and this and that. So this judgment is reflecting agreement with Enneagram, which you mentioned, But the thing is that this introverted profile is more suited to people who are really deep introverts, really deep introverts, that you can look at them, you have got this impression and so on. With you, I do not see that very high introverted subtype, and that's why you have been typed by Timur Brodsky as Chuck London and by Gulenka as Hamlet, because somehow you appear to people is quite social and quite energetic and so on,
Yeah,
So
and I've gotten that too from different people in the socionics community, and that's another thing. Like with the LII profile, where I seem different than other LIIs, like other LIIs, at least the ones I know, they just seem more overall introverted and antisocial. Like I don't like to go to social gatherings, and for me it's like, I like going to social gatherings, provided that I will know some people there, and there'll be interesting things to talk about. You know, going out, or expending energy isn't that much of a problem for me.
Laura, do you think? Sorry, there's like a little bit. There's a little bit of extra information. So Laura's job as a librarian, you've got to interact with quite a lot of people, and so if you've been doing that for a while, then it sort of helps with the differentiation of the extroverted feel and of the FE and FI functions. There's something else where, because of your focus on self-preservation, that will make it easier for you to communicate with a large group of people that we know as Kersey Guardians, but anyone who's like normalize them, it's easier for you to like maybe, and what would be boring small talk to me would not be as boring to you if it relates to the area of self-preservation. And so maybe that helps.
I mean, because it's kind of like LIIs, like they talk about how they absolutely hate small talk, and I mean, I don't really hate it. I mean, I would prefer to talk about more, deeper things like socionics or something rather than just the weather. But I wouldn't say I'm anti small talk necessarily either. So I'm not as opposed to small talk as some LII seem to be.
Could it be? Because I've heard it read that with a lot of small talk, and especially for Kersey Guardians and for other people, it's not about the topic; it's about the actual connection with people.
Yeah.
And is that right? That seems to be a factor with you, because that's part of the Enneagram 6 in wanting support and guidance. So that might. So a general point, Olga, is that if you have a logical type that is like Enneagram Type 6, they appear to be a bit more feely. They appear to be a bit more ethical than usual. And it happens with somebody on my channel called Elena, a Ukrainian. She's ILI, but because she resembles this Enneagram Type 6, she's a bit like ILI harmonizing subtype. And so she can look like an ethical type because of this preoccupation with wanting support and guidance from people. Sort of develops those functions.
Okay.
Just some observations.
Yes. I mean, you draw these parallels with other systems, but we are still in the middle of discussing of Laura's subtype from Socionics point of view. So we just discussed introverted profile for Laura. One of the type result, associative test, I think we gave you the type Yesenian, IEI, and
let me pull up my results here.
Okay, and I just yes,
I gotta figure out how to switch it to another.
Right. So while she figures that out, Laura, I'll just explain to you, Olga, that the reason why I was bringing up those other things was to sort of give some reasons why Laura might be a little bit more outgoing, for sort of maybe suggest some reasons for that.
Yes, the thing is, in the Socionic system, we would say that that simply means that Laura might be not introverted profile. She might be balanced on introversion and extroversion. That's the point, because if some people see her as extroverted type, so okay, we can say they're not prophy, but that's impression she makes in people. If she goes somewhere to socialize with people, and if she's in a good mood and smiling and laughing and so on, so people will not see her as a deeply introverted person. So maybe we need to look now at the possibility for Laura to have other subtypes, not super id, but either ego or id subtypes, because there was some test results suggesting that. The only thing which I want to mention, subtype ego with type of information metabolism would be Jack London, LIE, is seems to be fitting because Laura mentioned her dynamic interests. You know, we don't have it. We cannot discuss it because there was no music and art to discuss. But Laura said that she might be dynamic, a subtype. In this case, it's good. But on another hand, it's not that good because when I asked Laura to write the TPA profile, how she thinks it distributed in her psyche, I think she put ego on the very last fourth place, the weakest. So I remember she put super-ego leading energy, then she put I eat, TPA, then was super-id, and then was ego. So that's also subtype LIE is questionable. And also because while she was answering questionnaire, she kind of pointed that she is hesitant, she is not really pushy person, and so on and so on. And ego is usually developed in people who are in a managerial positions, who really manages, lead people, have to take harsh decisions, and so on and so on. So that's another thing I would like you to offer to discuss. Is it possible for Laura to have LIE, how you see it, and subtype ego? Laura, what would you say?
Well, based on what you said about the ego, it doesn't seem as likely. You know what? Maybe we should pull up those 4 basic descriptions of those groups. Ego ID, super ego, super ID. Where is that on your site? The summary of those 4.
That could be in associative typology under the theory. If it will be drop, and it will be associative typology.
What link is that? There's a lot on this website. Associative typology, maybe?
Yeah, it is associative typology, I think, under the main drop theory.
Laura, you might need to change your tab because we're seeing the.
Yeah. Well, I'm still trying to find it first. Once I find it, I'll.
Roger.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I got it pulled up. Okay, I'll change the tab. Okay, so if I go to the main page and then under theory, associative typology, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so here it says ID types, super ID types, ego types, super ego types, and then you go down a little bit more, and it kind of describes describes the functions in those types.
Values, yeah.
Oh, down here is the descriptions of the different groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I actually related quite a bit to ID here, even though it's the opposite of superego, because I definitely like to occupy myself with whatever's interesting and pleasurable to me. And yeah, sometimes I do find my desires variable, changeable, and adaptable to the circumstances. Yeah, wide range of interests, plenty of acquaintances, yes. Many places they visited already or planning to visit. Yes, I do like to travel, and I would love to be able to see more of the world. Their main merit is that they can relatively quickly and without much effort get adapted to the new situation and switch from one activity to another if that's necessary. This kind of depends on the situation. You know, sometimes it does take me a little bit of time to get adapted to a new situation. I mean, if the new situation is kind of similar to what I've experienced already, it's easier. If it's something I haven't experienced yet, it might take me a little bit more time to adjust to it. But generally, I'm pretty, open to change if I can see the benefits that change is going to bring. If I know it's going to bring positive benefits, then I'm going to be pretty open to that change.
Okay, I would really suggest at the moment not to go deeper into these
Okay.
descriptions. Yeah, the thing is that you have done it. I asked you, like, Laura, please give me TPE model, distribute these types. You have read through it. There were a few links, and that's what was your result. Somehow you feel that in your psyche, in your personality, is a big part of it logic. Yeah. And that's true. Rationality is very true, because you mentioned a few times in your video that how you feel kind of the frame, the border, the limit out of which you cannot really get out, So which holding your type in place, logic, formal logic. You might have insights, something, yeah, but you kind of need to check it out, yeah, and that feeling gives you stability. And I just thought that maybe what you were talking about the Enneagram 6 as being really kind of closed into yourself and security, in reality is just this frame of rationality and logic, that everything needs to be checked with your mind first.
Right.
Then we shall move from Enneagram 6 and Spirit energy more to rationality. Yeah. So, but now what I want to say is that I also give the person to read the TP profiles in short. Here we just have TP descriptions, yeah, but there is also type of psychodynamics. It's another link on my website, which would be good to look at, because where they are.
Is it under type profile?
No, subtype system.
Subtype system. Okay.
Yeah, if you click on that, on
which
subtype,
which link on there?
Just subtype system. If you click on that, they will be
okay.
Scroll down more. Stop.
Is it the TPE subtype short version?
Just a bit higher on the right. Black and red and blue. This is a funny picture. Yes.
Oh, type of psychodynamics. That one.
Yeah. This is very short. If you just click on the picture, yeah. This is very short description.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And I remember I asked you to look, and I said
to you,
I
remember this.
Laura, being LII type, you can only have 3 possibilities. You can be either introverted subtype, or static, or rational. And I don't remember exactly what you said. I think you said to me, I'm probably introverted or rational. That's what you said. So you kind of related to introverted or rational subtype. But what is interesting is that when we just now looked at how you distributed the TPs in your psyche, you have come out to static. So we have got a huge range of choice and nothing in particular, very, very tangible, so that we can say, yes, it is exactly this, exactly this. You kind of find yourself a bit in every type of psychic energy, in every group. But what I will tell you now, because we kind of already discussing in depth your type, and I tell you what, that subtype is generally not as important as type, and in some people we can see it very clear. In some people we can rather say, oh, you are definitely not this subtype, you are not quite that. But we cannot say what exactly is the energy, supportive energy. So that's why I use art and music preferences to analyze.
But in your case, personally, I would go for ID, for static profile, and ID type of energy means ILE subtype. I know you might say that you are not that overly creative, you are not that overly inventive, but I wouldn't really bother too much about it because, according to Jung, only around at 40 years old we create this ballast of information when we can start really create something. And before that, it's still a way to go for you, still a lot of information to gather. Yeah, that's one thing. On another thing, to look at the creativity, it's not like you have to develop a new, I don't know, approach typing or a new theory. It's not like that. If you look more about your hobbies, which give you a pleasure in life, which push energy into you when you do something you really enjoy. Yeah. For example, I knew a lady of your type, and she was very depressed, and she started to do ekibano, this Japanese beautiful bouquet of flowers. You know, she started to be interested in that, and by doing that, she explored the creative personality of hers. Some do photography, some do something else. Yeah, so that's what it is. Go for the interest in life. And I think that fits good because it is balanced on extroversion, introversion, yeah, sort of thing. So even I will ask your opinion now of this because basically you need to choose between these three types of energy and three types of personality type: LIE, ILE, and ILI. Yeah, so that's what you have in mind. But generally, I think this type, your interest in socionics, in theory, it is intellectual interest. Yeah. So it could be. And if at the end of this meetup we shall not be able to clearly get agreement on what your subtype is, I don't think it's a huge deal because you will have some idea to look at your subtype differently, and it broadens up the view of the person's type. It's not like you are in a frame of just LII. Yeah, you have got massive possibilities to explore as a professionally, to go into these positions and see. Because if you start to suddenly work, I don't know, as a manager somewhere, of dealing with the resources, I don't know, warehouse or some organization, you might develop these LIE qualities when you have to take in decisions, when you are in charge. You just don't know yet. It's kind of sleeping in you, right? So it may all come and may all change. So what is your opinion of your possible subtype?
Well, I mean, I'm still not really sure.
Don't you think you're a little bit
I mean,
similar?
based on those little short descriptions, I mean, it's just kind of hard to say because they're just kind of very, I don't know, general and vague. Like I could kind of relate to all of them, but then I guess what you say about the static type, kind of being like an ILE, I guess that kind of makes sense because I don't know, that would balance out the introvert and the extrovert a bit more because I don't think I'm super introverted because I know some LIIs that are like very introverted and I'm kind of different than that.
I see you pretty much similar to Ben. I think Ben is all over the world. His subtype as ILE fit him perfectly. And somehow you are on the same range. I don't see you are very different from him in this respect. But I forgot to say something. In my system, subtype system, you get actually two subtypes. One subtype one subtype is related to TPE, which we just looked at, yeah, and another subtype within your TPE group. You have got other types like Dostoevsky, you know these names, yeah? It is EII, Dostoevsky, and you actually were talking that you are quite ethical as well, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So you have got also LSI, which we call Maxim Gorky type, you know, and there was somebody who typed you in this type as well, you know. And you have got also my type, ESI, in this group, but because I have got different functional profile from you, yeah, so it is least likely for you to have my type as a subtype. But you can have either Dostoevsky ethical or logical. And this is another way interesting to look at the subtypes. You know, talking to you, what you're saying, you must be Dostoevsky subtype, yeah? But I do not call it ethical subtypes of LIE. I call it intuitive, because what is common between LII and EII is that they both have got creative intuition, yeah? And what happens with intuitive subtype of LII, what it means? It means that you have a good balance of logic and intuition. No, maybe something like 60 to 40, yeah? But if it would be more logic, stronger logic, then we would have your like 70, 75 to 25 of intuition. And in this case, being heavily logical type, then you could resemble more LSI, Maxim Gorky type, and then as TPE profile, you probably would get, in this case, LIE, Jack London. Then you would go heavily to the logical side. But because you are intuitive, that's why people may see you sometimes more like Dostoevsky type.
Right.
Yeah? But
yeah,
it's
interesting because like when I look at the Socionics profiles, like I don't relate that much to LSI, and you probably don't use quadra values like World Socionic Society does, but they talk about like how LSI is in the beta quadra, and I don't really relate much to the beta quadra, but I do relate quite a bit to the delta quadra, which EII is in addition to the alpha quadra. Like I relate to the two quadras that both value extroverted intuition and introverted sensing, and I don't value the quadra that has extroverted sensing and introverted intuition. And the LII and the EII, they both have creative extroverted intuition, and then they also have vulnerable extroverted sensing.
Yes, so we could start when we started our video analyzing your subtype, we kind of went straight away to see what type of energy is your subtype, and then we gone to Don Quixote and Jack London and Balzac. But we could start with your group. We could say, Laura, you talk a lot about your ethics. You must be within your group EII. And as soon as we say that, if we confirm that, then we say, well, intuitive subtype of LII means that you must have in TPEs also the type with program intuition. So our choice would be straight away between ILE or ILI, yeah? So, and then we would limit ourselves just to look at these two TPs, yeah. So that's
I'm sorry. Say that again. Sorry.
Okay, what I'm saying is that if we would start with you with looking about subtype within your group, yeah, your group superega has got 4 types, yeah, LII, EII, LSI, and ESI, yeah,
Right.
these 4 subtypes. And we shall say, okay, Laura talked a lot about ethics, and so on. And somebody feel her and see her as ethical, intuitive type, and so on. We can say, okay, then we can disregard LSI LSI, Maxim Gorky, and it is very unlikely that her subtype is Dreiser, ESI, within this group, because it is very different functional profile. So the one which is similar and ethical is EII. Okay, if within your subtype, within your subgroup you have got subtype EII, intuitive type of logical introvert, logical intuitive introvert. This means that you go to see other two types as subtypes on a functional profile. Starting with intuition, it must be intuitive types, yeah, but intuitive logical types, similar to you with a functional NT profile, scientist, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then we would choose either between ILE in ID, oh, that's so difficult for me, group, or in a super-read group. You might ask me the question, you might say, how, Olga, does it mean that in my super-A group, my subtype is Dostoevsky, ethical, but when we move to consider TPE's subtype, it suddenly becomes logical, yeah? So that is approach to find the most similar types to LII, the most similar. And the most similar could be logic and intuition, yeah? You do not have within your super-ego group another logical intuitive type, no. You have got a choice between LSI or EII, and that's why we say she's intuitive profile subtype. The closest to her must be EII. But when we look further in a socio, you know, and in different TP groups, then we go by NT, intuition and logic. So eventually we found for you the most closest subtypes to LAI, and it will be EII, and then it will be ILE or ILI. So that is your subtypes. And which one you put as a third, you know, type? Would it be Don Quixote type or would it be Balzac? That's kind of for you to decide. I would go with ILE and static profile for Laura. And what Ben would say? Introverted profile, Balzac, no?
Ooh, it's the thing is, with is that Laura's development in that her line of work is working with people and wanting to establish relationships with people to make sure that she's sort of like getting on well with them and getting an atmosphere, because it's coming towards self-preservation and social. And whereas many LII resemblers are sort of less social and less interested in the self-preservation stuff because they're about the ideas, where Laura does have that aspect to her with wanting to maintain and have connections with people, for be a bit more part of the community. So for example, in a workplace, would it be fair to say, Laura, that in a workplace environment, the a focus of attention for you is to get on reasonably okay with everybody?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Whereas I don't think that would be the focus of attention of many, say, LII resemblers. And so what I'm sort of getting to here, Olga, is that this kind of behavior can look like someone's more socially extroverted than what they might be. It depends on the.
But I mean, sometimes I would prefer, like, to just work alone by myself, do my own thing, and not have to deal with any people. But because I have to deal with people, then of course I'm going to want to get along with the people that I'm with.
That is a key nuance. When you deal with the people, then it's like you FE them and you do the people skills. So it's like when you have to deal with them, but you would prefer not to. That's a good theme.
It's kind of weird because I did this, interest inventory, and my top two types were investigative and social. So like investigative is kind of like, exploring like intellectual things in depth. And then my secondary was social, which is like, kind of like people oriented, helping people. Well, the thing is like, I like to do things that I know are going to benefit people, benefit the community, but I don't necessarily like to work alongside with people so much. I want to work quietly, like on some project or something but that would later benefit people, or just work one-to-one with somebody where I know that both of us are on the same page.
Somebody has mentioned in the chat this, and I like to bring up non-type factors. So, Laura, could you talk a little bit about where you are in the United States and how that affects? I think, and you think you're near Minnesota. You got that Minnesota nice thing going on that can.
Yeah, and I mean, I do live in Minnesota, and it is kind of known as a state that is known for being nice and being polite and yeah, rather than just being really rough with people.
So if you'd have grown up in, say,
I mean, some states they're just kind of a little more blunt about things, and they're.
So imagine if you could have like a twin, like a science fiction thing, where the Brooklyn version of Laura.
The Brooklyn version. Well, then I'd have to get a different accent, and I can't do a Brooklyn accent.
I think that one would be a little bit more forthcoming, although you are quite, you know what I mean? A little bit.
I mean, it's kind of like, well, like I know with Linda on her YouTube videos, like she comes from the South, so she says, well, that's why she's an ENFP, but she can relate a lot to some of that FE stuff because that was her upbringing. She was like.
When you say Linda or Carol Linden?
Oh, Carol Linden. Yeah, not Linda. Sorry, Carol Linden. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. So I'll just say a bit there, Olga, about half a minute. So Carol Linden, she resembles IEE. I think that's ENFP. So she's right from the south of America, and she's like lots of stuff on good manners. But when the rubber meets the road and there's a conflict, she goes with what she authentically believes in. But it's like she said it broke her heart to like have to conflict with her grandmother or her mother in terms of the social things that they believed in. But like it was such a core sort of like emotional, it's like a core ethical thing that she went against her family. But she was always aware of those. And that's the thing that people grow up in the South in the United States, where they are very much aware of manners and things like that.
Yeah.
And so if someone doesn't take these things into account, someone can type somebody as FE value, and when they're not, it's just a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Whereas other parts of the United States, so I mentioned New York, the stereotype of New York, at least, is as a culture which values being a lot more blunt with people on the subway, and they're not talking to each other, and they don't appear as sociable. And so just these little differences that I think are important to take into account.
Yeah, but it's like for me, I don't talk. I generally don't talk on the subway or on the bus or even in line to a grocery store. I just kind of want to take care of my own business. But if somebody does approach me, I'm going to try to be. I'm still going to try to be polite to them. But
there we go. That's the thing.
I'm not necessarily that talkative. I don't like talking much for the sake of talking. I like talking to have some kind of purpose. Like I get the information I need so that I can accomplish my goals, or to satisfy my curiosity about some topic I'm interested in. I'm not really wanting to chit chat for its own sake.
But when you said there, in order to be polite, that's the thing that would be different depending on your geography.
Yeah, and in my geography, like Minnesota, it's kind of like the South in that way. There is a lot of emphasis on politeness and social niceties.
Well, I just opened on Facebook. Sorry,
Except the
Laura.
accents are different.
Yeah.
I just opened on Facebook the groups which are by type of psychic energy. So these 4 type groups, they accumulate a certain type of energy. And as regards to FI for Robespierre type, it's very natural. It's very natural because if these functions of Fi and Ti would not support each other, would not work in a tandem with each other, you would not be the rational introverted static type. Because people got used to look at the model A like, okay, this is Ti, major function, that's why you're this type. No, if you look at the values of all 8 functions, and this is actually how tests usually done, the programs of the test, they weigh out all these functions, yeah? So Ti and Fi, 2 functions, which are rational, introverted, and static, yeah? And you compare this function with other 2 functions of Robespierre, which would be Se and Ne, yeah? So they must be stronger together, in values. That is also dimensionality theory functional. But because if these 2 functions will not dominate between the all of 8, you cannot be static rational type. Do you understand? Yeah? So that's as simple as that. That's how important Fi is generally for Robespierre. It's nearly as important as creative, nearly.
Yes. This is something I continually mention to people all the while about just how important the role function is.
Yeah.
Because it's it's of the same socionics temperament.
Right.
Exactly.
If you're into
right. And that's what I really like about your theory is that part of that is emphasized. Yeah, because Fi definitely has a really strong influence in my life and my way of thinking. And whereas in Socionics, they kind of treat it like, oh, you got to do it, but you don't value it. And that never really made much sense to me because it's like I read that Fi description, I value all that stuff. I mean, but I probably don't value it in the way that maybe an EII would. I don't do it as well as like an EII would, or I'm not as confident in it. Maybe that's the best way of putting it.
For me, it's a level of comfort. There's a slight level of discomfort when I'm in that mode, and it's also a little bit. And Olga mentioned recently with the group like super ego. There's a sort of a super ego shift where when LII can act ESI, it tends to be in a moment of discomfort because they'd rather be in TI.
Right. It's kind of like ESI is kind of like my defensive mode. Like, okay, like if somebody offended me or somebody I care about or some ideal I have, then I can get kind of ESI on them, like I can make that harsh moral judgment. They're a bad person, but it's not my default state, and it kind of comes out in an unhealthy way. It's kind of like the bad qualities of ESI are coming out, and
I can sometimes go, if I'm writing from the center of a character, then I'm going to FI voluntarily, not as a defense mechanism. And it's like, because there's like MBTI, Kersey, Berens, Nardi, ISFP. It's a little bit, it doesn't equate to ESI, but say I mean, Olga would say that there are creative artistic examples of ESI, aren't Olga? There's going to be a subtype of ESI that's more creative and less. That'd
be like the SEE subtype.
Maybe, yes.
Yeah, the static subtype.
And
where they emphasize the ID.
And so if you compare the two types, LII does tend to design structures, and then if you think about the artistic subtype of ESI, they are designing things as well. So there's a complementarity there.
Yes, and the thing important is for my method and theory as well that this is our conscious function, mental function. So we do understand them. Yeah, we might they not just come out like FE. Yeah, FE might come out of you uncontrollable. You just feel like you are overwhelmed with emotions, and you just need to discharge them. Yeah, that's happened. But these other functions which are in your conscious, they are all controllable, and you know how to use them. You've got understanding on how to use them.
This might explain, Olga, why this might make sense now as to why certain people who resemble LII, who are interested in typology, that they might write that there's a difference between emotions and feelings, and what it might be is just that, is that the emotional part might be the FE part, and the feelings part might be the FI part, because socionics does appear to split it in that way, where it puts feelings in FI and emotions in FE.
Can you kind of explain more the difference between emotions and feelings? Because I've always just used the two words interchangeably.
It's something I've recently come across. It's very it's something I'm investigating, but I reckon I can just about explain it. So you got these sort of like discrete emotions that you can put a label on.
Mm-hmm.
And an example would be an example I read once was, say, if you bump into somebody, you might have an initial feeling of anger, but then if you see that it's a small child or an elderly person, then you've got that emotion then comes in, and then they blend together, and that creates a feeling that might then affect your attitude, and that's a lot more complex than just the individual emotion.
So the emotions kind of come first, and the feelings come later, and
yeah, because what it is the brain, because the emotions are in the hypothalamus.
So it's like the emotions are kind of more instinctual, more limbic, and emotions or in feelings are kind of more, almost have a more mental quality to it.
Yes,
well,
and
interesting.
Also, so we can compare lust as an emotion, love involves feeling.
Oh, okay.
So you can say anger is an emotion, indignation. We're indignant about something. There's like a little bit of ethical stuff going in there. So
which one is FI and which one is FE again?
Well, I'm just saying that socionics appears to divide. I wouldn't divide it like this personally, but they appear to. I mean, they even call it ethics of emotions, and they talk about the emotional expression. So socionics appears to put emotions in FE and call it ethics of emotions, and they appear to put sentiment and feelings and classify that as FI.
Yeah, because by that description, I relate more to the FI than the FE, because I'm kind of distrusting sometimes of these, I don't know, just limbic emotions. They just seem so, I don't know, animalistic almost, whereas
yes, that's it.
I kind of respect feelings more. They got kind of more of a, I don't know, a mental component, more nuanced maybe, and not.
Yes, and they also tend to be a static. They're also static as well. And I'll be able to explain this better in future.
Yeah.
Finish my functions book. There's certain sources that I'm not revealing, but get more nuance. But what I'm sort of thinking is, as Olga said, that emotion is experienced as something that's less controlled in us, and we have FI is more mental. That there might be a tendency for, when people who resemble LII think about, say, and if you were to ask them to think about a difference between feelings and emotions, they might think about it in a similar way. So it's interesting if we could ask the different types what they think about the relationship between feeling and emotions, and how their type affects how they think about it. because there might be others, you know what I mean? There might be some relationship there that goes to what Olga said about Effie as experienced as something that sort of like bubbles up like a volcano and you can't really control it. And in fact, Olga, Dario Nardi has talked about how in his system, INTP, talked about how they, and the brain, his brain research has shown that the type has a sort of a green shield that suppresses emotion from the limbic system, but then it can like all go, and it like it's like the person who's gone into a volcano of emotion. They can become embarrassed very easily, sort of all or nothing. And I think that's consistent with what you're saying there.
I just can quickly explain. Well, it's not something new. It's so much well known. You know that FI, ethics of a relationship or feelings. It is when we prefer to hide our emotions, because our emotions, anger, you know, and so on, can hurt someone. Feelings may affect on long-term effect and actually break the relationship, damage the relationship. And FE types, they care about the relationship. Yeah, that's why it's good to have a partner who either, for Robespierre type, who either can manage your emotions like that, you know, or can tolerate it, take it in safely, adjust it, and with no damage to relationship or to himself. Just example was, it was very funny. My husband is Robespierre type, you know, and he was talking to someone, colleague, and so on, and this kind of negative emotion comes through in the root wording. He said something in a manner which was like, oh, what he's saying, you know, it's not even his brother or someone, you know. But that other guy was Hamlet type, you know, FE, and he knows, he understands my husband, his type, and he started like to laugh about it. He made a joke out of it, you know. And because he laughed about it, like in a jokey way, you know, somebody says you rude things, can you imagine? And you start like, ha ha ha, that's really funny. My husband's mood changed in a second. And he started to laugh as well. Like, oh yeah, that is a joke. Yeah, that is a combination of how FE can change and manipulate the mood of TI. That's one thing. Yeah, but talking about FI, it is a model. It is very simple model A. Robespierre knows the norms, ethical norms. He knows what is good, not good, what is right, not right. So TI as a objective relations, you know, between anything is supported by FI, by their ethical norms, what is good, not good for the people. Yeah, that's how they support each other, these functions. And sometimes, of course, FE comes out in Robespierre's exactly like I said. It just blows up, yeah, uncontrollable. But generally, FI are good and knowing of how people have to behave, and they can be very good at it as well. Can be very strict, categorical, but still very true. While if you talk about FI type, superego types like Dostoevsky and Dreiser, they sometimes lose this clear view of categorical, you know, view, and they can be submissive, conformative, and people can use them, and so on and so on. I don't know what I wanted to say, but I think I said something which is related to what we're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, in the going back to the original sheet, so did we have a look at? Did we sort of highlight the differences that your method has, Olga, from other methods in socionics diagnostics?
Well, I definitely did.
Yeah.
I just didn't hear much from Laura, because Laura went through a series of different socionics methods. She said how many different types she got. But what exactly, if she can mention something on the process, what she liked or didn't like by, I don't know, answering questionnaire or other methods.
Okay. You're talking about your questionnaire, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna pull it up here. Okay, so type in subtype analyzer. Or wait, no, it wasn't this one. It was.
This on the left corner.
Oh, left corner.
No,
Here?
no, top, bottom, just a bit down. I see questionnaire.
Oh, that one.
Row.
Okay.
Second row questionnaire. I think we got, yeah.
Make sure that one is showing. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so this was the questionnaire that I answered. I think what I liked about it is that, I mean, the questionnaire goes quite a bit in depth. So I think you will, as long as you're answering all the questions and you're giving specific examples, I think it's pretty easy to get an assessment of type using this method. The first section was provide general information about yourself, and then from there it goes into depth of the four main functions: logic, ethics, sensing, and intuition. So you look at this paragraph, like for logic, for example, you look at this paragraph.
Laura, I'm sorry, you did talk about it. I just forgot about it. You did talk in depth about it. I just would like to know, is it easy? Would you recommend someone to record this questionnaire? Would it be, in your opinion, would it be revealing?
Yes, I think it would be. I think it would be revealing, but a person has to, provide examples as to why it fits, doesn't fit. Like if you just say, how good are you at logics, and then you go right to the bottom here and say, I am good at logics, that doesn't tell you anything. You have to know why they're good at logics. They have to give examples. They have to, go through each of these statements here and then kind of explain how they relate and don't relate to those statements.
Yes, that's good. That's good, because I try to do the same thing when I diagnose somebody's type.
Yeah, I usually,
because what you mean by something might not be what somebody else means by something, and then through the examples,
right. And people have different definitions of good, like they might think they're good at logic, but the rest of the world doesn't. And I mean, so by societal norms, they may not be very good at logic. So
what I really looking for when people answer my questionnaire, I'm saying to them that, look, I'm not observing you day to day, so I don't know how is your typical behavior. It's not just what you think, but also give me like a film, show me what is your typical behavior. And good at it are facts from your life. If people can remember that, from their behavior situations which are supportive to their opinion of being logical type. Yeah, that is important. Facts from the life.
Yeah. I think the one thing that's kind of challenging about this is, like, when you say you're good or not good, I mean, there's a big range. You can, you can be excellent at a function. I mean, you can be, well, I'm pretty good at this. I'm more good than I'm not good, but I'm not as good at this function as I am at that function. I think there needs to be more of a range of numbers here. That would be one suggestion for improvement, rather than I'm good, I'm not good, because it's usually not that black and white. And
yeah, I'll just say something, Olga, that people who resemble Enneagram Type 6, they usually don't like making definitive statements, and they like change their mind on things, and so yeah, I mean, more options, finely grained. I mean, it might make
and the thing is too, it's like, well, I mean, you could be reading this paragraph and you're like, well, I really relate to this sentence. I'm very good at that. But then there could be a different sentence in the same paragraph that you don't relate as much to. And then but then with the way the question is stated, it's kind of like, well, you got to take in that paragraph as a whole, and overall, am I good or not good? And
yes, you kind of think that it can be making mistakes. People can make mistakes, yeah, and so on. Yes, it is. I understand the point, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet if it would be really helpful on a range. I don't know. The thing is, I'm using this type-subtype analyzer, and when people evaluate on just three values, that shows me sometimes inconsistencies.
yeah, well, like with
That is very
logic,
good.
it was easy for me to determine that I'm good at logic. I mean, I relate to these statements and I'm able to give examples. But you go a little farther down. Intuition was one where I was more in the middle,
So
because
it might be, Laura, that it might be, Olga, that if you put good versus bad, there might be some people who have got an ego, and it's like they want to say that they're good at pretty much everything. Now, what you could do is have strongly agree, partly agree,
right.
disagree,
And
strongly
I know
disagree.
for me personally, I mean, this is not necessarily going to work for everybody, but for me personally, I like having it split up into statements. Okay, here's a statement for intuition. Statement one, agree, strongly disagree, a scale. Statement two, have a scale, kind of like that. That's what works better for me, but I
Also,
can't speak for everybody.
yeah. Sorry for interrupting. I was just thinking here, like, if someone's got low self-esteem, and you ask a question, are you good at this? Are you bad at this? Are you unsure? Are the things that they are good at, they might put unsure just because they've got low
Right,
self-esteem.
exactly.
So I do think it would be, it's like it cuts out, like if you go strongly agree, partly disagree, strongly disagree, something like that.
You know what? It's. I think it's easy to do. It's very easy to do. And I'm thinking also about my type analyzer, which I suggest to go with three values, but it can go with more values. It can. I just need to see how it works. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is possible we can do it up to 5 at least and see how it works. But so far, I didn't have much trouble. It might be trouble for the person, as you said, when he wants to write it, evaluate it. But for me, evaluating wasn't really a big deal, because when the person makes a questionnaire, a video, the person still gives me a lot of information of, do I believe him or I do not believe him, or I think he is talking inconsistent and he doesn't understand theory, how he applying it, and so on.
Can I ask you about that, Olga? Is like the difference between the do you sometimes see, Olga, where it's like I get an idea here of how this person sees themselves versus how they really are, and how do you usually pick up on that when you see a discrepancy in someone's self-image versus what they're really like?
Well, my approach is that I don't like to tell the person what I see. I might see type straight away. I might. But what benefit will be for the person if I say, look, I think you are this type? The person will say, huh? What? Why? I don't know. No facts, no evidence. So what I'm trying to do is just to lead person to the type. And if I see inconsistencies, weak points, and so on, I usually say, okay, you need to read this information about two different intuitions. You need to read that. Think about this, think about that. That's how we're working, and sometimes it takes a while for the person to come to understanding. So it is hard for me, very hard, because sometimes I think, gosh, I asked this, I asked that, and the person is still seeing himself not as I see him, and so on. It can be very hard, but well, we carry on. And that's what it is. I always say at the end, like, that's what I think, but it's your choice. because it's your identity, not mine. I'm not living with you. I just had with you conversation, consultancy, and so on, but you living with it. You decide what you're comfortable with. And if you think we did a mistake or something, we can always talk back and see it and so on.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't so much thinking about somebody thinks they're one type, and then you give them a different way. It's just that the way someone actually looks at their own abilities and their sort of their self-image, and because there are some people who are like, there's some people out there who've completely got themselves wrong, and like say if they're completely insecure, and they actually, and the things that like, and it's like they've not got the self-knowledge, and it's like, I just wondered if there were things in your diagnosis to sort of pick up on somebody's image of themselves, irrespective of type. Just how they see themselves is different from how you see them, or may say other people. Because there are those people out there who've got a huge ego, and they would go through all of these things, and it's like, oh, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this. Because you see these people who like do these tests, and it's like they'll write 10 out of 10 for like all of the functions or something.
And it's like, for me, I never rate a 10 on anything, because I always think there's room for improvement.
So,
you know.
So for example, you'll get
even if something I know I'm very good at, I'll rate myself a 9 at most.
Right, there you go.
Because there's always room for improvement.
That's the thing.
But that's just me.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if someone's like a 6 or is insecure, then it's like, if it's in between, it's like they'll look at it's like glass half full, half empty, kind of thing.
Well, I usually direct the person, and always try to say to him, choose between this and this. I give him enough information to think about. Choose between this and this. And the diagnostics I had before, what is helping me is the fact that method is standardized. Yeah, for example, if you talk about preferences in art and music, you can find everything, how to type, how to interpret this art, how to interpret this music. So first of all, it's important that the person doesn't know anything, doesn't look. I say, don't look in my website, give me the material. And when I have got the material, then if the person is wrong, then it will be lots of inconsistencies. I will say to him, what you choosing? Hello.
I just wanted to say something, because I did like those associative tests on your website, and the results I was getting on those tests were not consistent with my type of LII. Like, when I was looking at the pictures, I tended to prefer the pictures that had brighter colors, that maybe had more contrast, and it seems like LII would prefer something maybe more, I don't know, more muted maybe. I don't know.
Laura, did Olga's test, when you preferred one image over another, did it ask you why you preferred it?
No, it's just yes or no. Well, it depends on the test. Like, one of the tests, it's like, which picture do you like better? The left one or the right one. You can say don't know, like if you don't like either picture, you like them both equally. And then there was like another test where it was like patterns, but there was like 8 choices, and like pick 1 out of 8, which was really difficult to do, because sometimes it would be like, well, I can narrow it down to like 2 or 3, but I can't, there's too many choices there. So for me, it was very difficult, Sometimes I had to randomly pick one picture just to get to the next question, because
yes, and
there was no option on that test. There was no option to say I'm unsure. So for me, it might be better to have maybe fewer pictures, like maybe 4 pictures at the most, and not 8. Because
one of the things, Olga, about Laura is, because of the Enneagram, is that do you have a lot of doubt? You seem to have a lot of doubt, Olga. It's like, Laura, which is why you appear to, I'm going to type them from here to here to here and here.
Yeah.
So could you please talk a little bit about how much doubt you have?
But I'm wondering, like with the nonverbal preferences, like because I seem to prefer things that are like maybe against my socionics type. Well, like with music too. Like, I like music that's more upbeat and kind of more contrast between sounds. If it's sometimes if it's too mellow, it's kind of boring, you know. So I mean, what is that?
Well, it's not really that easy. You need to learn a little bit of theory and be a practice as well. So no, what I was talking about the diagnostic is that, for example, the person has got a list of pictures. Yeah, give it to me, and then that's what I practice sometimes. You know, I say, okay, now read this my article on how to interpret art, and come back to me and tell me what you see. You know. And if the person comes out and the person by itself sees what I see, I say to him, well, you see, that's what is in your art. This is how we interpret. And that is the convincing for the person. That's another important thing of the approach, that I try to educate the person so that he gets that information on theory and practice, so that he sees the type for himself. But of course, this is not quickly done. It's not like 1 hour interview and you get a result. Yeah, it is. We are working together through whatever time it needed, conversing with each other in emails and so on, before we come to understanding what we're looking for. Not an easy thing, yeah. Maybe we should finish because we talk too much about everything. we cannot really discuss everything at once.
We've been an hour and 41 minutes so far.
Exactly.
Okay, so is there anything anything extra you'd like to go through, Laura?
Anything I'd like to go through.
Or ask Olga about?
I don't know. I think I can't think of anything more at this moment.
Okay, fair enough. So,
yes, and I just want to ask a question. If, Laura, you generally satisfied with diagnostics, with what we had in relation to your type? We didn't manage exactly to agree on a subtype, but then maybe it's a good thing, because at least I told you that what I think, and what I think
the ILE static subtype makes a lot of sense for me.
I know I keep bringing up Enneagram, Olga, and I apologize for that, but there's an insight from Enneagram that says that people who resemble this type are always doubting their own type in various systems. It's like, oh, I don't know, it depends. And Catherine Farber says that frequently people who resemble a 6 will say it depends. So that might be one of the reasons why Laura finds it hard to sort of pin herself down.
Yeah. Well, the only thing is, it's like the description, I think, of the static ILE subtype makes sense, but it seems like with like the pictures, for example, I tended to prefer the dynamic photos more than the static ones, and I think music is the same way. Like it's more interesting when there's kind of more contrast of sounds rather than just kind of the same thing.
Yes, that is actually typical for Robespierre type, that to get more fee, to get more to get more FE, yes.
Okay.
They like it. Emotions, they like it. They feed on it. So
so maybe it's also true. I am looking for something that has some emotion.
Laura, do you like Tchaikovsky? Because I like the emotion.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Right. Yes. So whatever it is, at least we all agreed on Dostoevsky subtype from your superego group. Yeah. You know Dostoevsky EII. Yeah. And that means intuitive LII, and then 2 other subtypes could be either ILE or ILI. Yeah. The same with for Ben, but with Ben we just make it more clear that okay, ILI, Don Quixote fits him quite good with his broad interest and so on. So, and you can think, Laura, about it and decide yourself later on. Sometimes it's good to have something open. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So thank you very much.
So just for the audience, I've been typed as LII with a Don Quixote, so ILE subtype.
Yes, I always thought that way, didn't you?
Well, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. There's nothing like, how dare you?
Are you sure you're not an ESI?
Well, I wouldn't mind being an ESI. Here we go. So yeah, if it's okay, is it okay if we end the broadcast?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye, folks.
Bye bye. Nice to
And
talk to you.
it will